All right. So let's take a little bit of time, go through these vocabulary terms, and then in a few minutes, so let's say at 4:42, we'll get back together, go through it, and find some ways to make these kind of things easier for ourselves. All right, so here in just a few more minutes, we'll go back through all these, see how far we were able to make it in that time, and then go through some of the ways to make these kind of tasks a little bit easier for ourselves, either with vocabulary building or general skills. All right, about minute and a half or so left. And we'll see how far everyone got on there. And then we'll kind of go through this and see some things we can do to help ourselves out. All right, so did anyone manage to complete all 24 of them? No? No shame in that. I gave you about 12 minutes to do the 24, so I gave you 30 seconds for each of these, which is a much stricter time than what you would actually get for an actual exam. You would normally get around a minute and a half to 2 minutes for those parts. So we're moving at, almost triple speed. So if you, in that time, if you were able to complete 8 of the 24, and you're kind of right at the top of the time limit for what you need to complete. Because remember, if you're going in for the exam, they're all time tests. You got to keep that component of time in the back of your head. You have to remember, I have a limit. So I have to know how to manage that time, keep that pace going. How long can I spend on a question? So as we go through this, some of those things we look at that can try and help us out a little bit. And let's go ahead and get a slightly bigger sheet here for everybody. And now we can kind of zoom in a hair. So when it comes to some of these things, when you're working with vocabulary or new terms you've never come across, what are some things you can do to kind of make your job a little bit easier? All right, so process of elimination. So how would process of elimination work in a situation like this? You have a big old bank of words and a bunch of spots to them. So how can I start eliminating things? Well, you always go with, and I know this sounds strange, easiest first. So if you look through these, we want to look for what are the easiest ones that I know, because those take really no time at all to do, right? That means I have more time left for the more difficult ones. So probably the easiest one for all of us, well, number one, they already used Gene. So that one is taken care of. We don't have to worry about it at all. That's knocked right off the list. That saves us a little bit of time there. What do you think should be another nice, easy word for us? Well, this was on our first warm-up question, right? Cell. Who remembers that definition of cell we were talking about? Well, if you remember at the beginning class, a cell is the smallest unit of life to carry out activity, right? The smallest component of living things. So let's look through smallest. Nope. A living thing, that's a little bit too big. The smallest part of a living thing. Oh. So always go with the ones that are easy for you first. Knock those out to make things nice and simple and to save you time. Now, for those who were here last week, I talked about some ways to clue together, and for those who also are in my language arts class, some things you can use to help yourself to clue together, to make words into a puzzle. So if you know the pieces of them, you can figure out things. Does anyone remember what that was, those parts of words? So parts of words, so the root, the prefix, the suffix. So if I know parts of words, the base, then I can figure out the meaning. So some of those we were talking about last week, we talked about bio, which means life or living. We talked about logi, means to study. So when you add logi to the end of a word, biology, physiology, theology. Yep. Logi means the study of. So if bio means life or living, logi is study. The study of living things would be biology. Just combine those parts together. So knowing your roots, your prefixes, your suffixes, the parts of words that add meaning can help you when you encounter new things. If I recognize a part of it, then I can kind of start putting the puzzle together in my mind, right? So another one we can go with to help us, and we'll add a new term to our list, vor. What do you think that root means? Vor. This comes from Latin originally. When you add this, it means to devour or eat. So vor as a base means to devour or eat something. So we have a word on here, carnivore. Now for anyone who knows a bit of Spanish, what do you think that first part means? Yeah, carne, so meat, devour. So something that devours meat. Knowing those root words help to really boost things up. So let's see. Carnivore, meat devourer. So where would that go? Carnivore. Eats other animals. So knowing parts of words and the pieces, and you can use them to kind of build it. So there are kind of three descriptions we use for what things eat. Carnivore, meat eaters. How about a herbivore? Yeah, plants. When you think of herbs that you cook with, what are those? Those are plants, right? So herbivore eats plants. And then you have a omnivore, which is what we are for the most part, with a couple exceptions. So what do you think an omnivore is? Well, that's part of it. Yeah. Omni, which means kind of like all encompassing. So omnivores, you eat plants and animals, whichever you can get your hands on at that moment. But they all have that same root, vor, to devour, to eat. And the first part just describes what's being eaten. So now I kind of go through and I look for things that'll make it easy for myself. Are there any other terms on here that anyone looks at and is like, oh, that's a basic word that I know of, or that's something I've come across before? So adaptation, so we've used biology, we use carnivore, we use cell. Let's see. How about cloning? Is that a term anyone's familiar with? What it means to make a clone of something? Yeah, what's a clone? Yeah, you make a copy, right? So cloning, I'm looking for something that says to make a copy, right? Making an exact genetic copy. Oh, cloning. I know a clone is a copy of something. So cloning would be the process of making a copy. ing, when added to the end of a word, normally means the process of doing something. To think is have an idea, right? Thinking is the process of having ideas. Run, do an action of moving very quickly. Running, the process of moving quickly. So now we also have that ing as a suffix in addition to an end of a word. Helps us figure out things, all right? So let's see, what are some other things that might be kind of easy to pick up on? What's popping up to someone's mind? All right, extinct. So what does that mean to you? Okay. You did. You're gone. It's not here. All right, so no longer in existence. Extinct. Knock that off my list. All right. What else can I think of? So we have another low G word, right? Do we have any other low G words on here? Genetics, global warming, immune, mutation, organism, proteins, diversity, DNA, ecosystem, environment, evolution. So we have no other low G words other than ecology. So what does low G mean again? Study of. So let's go through and see how many of these definitions have study of in them. So I see number 6 has the study of the body system, the materials in the cell, the process of creating, the process by which, in order to which, gradual change, differences, a living thing, a challenge. All right, so I have a different study. So I have only two things that say a study of something, right? So now, because I know logi means study of, it has to be one of those two, right? Now I just need to figure out what's going to be the best fit. So a study of the relationship between organisms and their environment. So organisms and the environment. And the other one, the study of heredity, or how traits are passed. Okay, so which one do you think ecology fits better? Is ecology organisms and the environment? And or is it going to be how traits are passed from parent to child? What do you think? Which one do you think is a better fit and why? What do you think? Is it going to be 6 or 16? Is ecology environment or is ecology heredity? How things are passed from parent to child? Which one do you think fits better? All right. Why do you think environment? So when you see that eco thing, right? So ecosystem, ecology. What do you think of when you see eco? Oh, we need to be eco-friendly. So eco is a root, which means dwelling place or place things live. So eco is, that idea of where things live. So ecology, study of where things live. Oh, you have to figure out how things live in there. Those are the organisms, right? Ecosystem, the system of where things live. So how does the water react with the dirt, react with the rocks, the blah, 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 blah. But I'm sure we've all heard those things, eco-conscious or eco-friendly, eco-mode if you're driving something. So knowing word parts, roots, prefixes, suffixes, help you figure out parts and things that make it. Are there any other words? So we got that out that anyone's familiar with. How about evolution? Evolution, is that a term y'all come across before? Number 2, differences among species. Not quite. So evolution, what does that mean to you? So evo means, like a, okay, you're going with number 4, gradual change over a period of long time. All right. So why do you think that? Okay. So you're leaning towards evolution. So you're going 50-50. Fair enough. Is there anyone that you are thinking of why you want to lean towards evolution? Yeah, long period of time. So we're going long period of time. Part of the root of evolution. Evo, which means time, evolve, to change over time. And it's normally really, really long. Excellent. So, but as you see, as we go through these, we look for things we know that we're comfortable with. You always knock out the ones that you are comfortable with. All right. Anything else that kind of pops into your head as you might know? Right? That's okay. Let's see here. So how about diversity? That seems to be coming up. So diversity, or if something is diverse, have a lot. If people say there's a lot of diverse people here, what does that mean? There are a lot of different people, right? Not everyone's the same. Diverse means widespread differences and changes. So that would go for 2. So diversity describes all the differences among many different groups and species, and even within individual groups of animals and people and plants, that there can be large differences and changes between them. All right. So how about, has anyone ever heard of that term, photosynthesis? All right, well, let's take a look at, again, knowing root parts are going to help you. Photo, when we think of like a photograph, photo as a root means light. So a photograph is a light picture, a picture made of light. Synthesis is to combine. Synthesis as a word means to combine or put together. So photosynthesis is to put together light. So what of these do you think kind of matches with combining light? Does anything on here come to mind? Number 10, plants use carbon dioxide, sunlight, and water to make food. So I'm going to synthesize, combine, put together light and other things and make food. All right. So as we go through, we'll work on combining our understanding of different skills we can use. Always start with the easiest ones first, because if you spend all your time on the hard questions, what happens? Take too long. We have 24 questions on here, right? Some of those harder ones, if I have, like we said, 24 questions and I gave you 12 minutes. If I take 2 or 3 minutes just to get the first 2 ones done, I killed a lot of time that I don't have much left for anything else, right? So always kind of scan through it, find the easiest ones first, knock those out of the way. Now you have more time for the ones you really have to think about. And while it is not possible for me to teach you every vocabulary word that ever exists, we will work on vocabulary, and I will give you vocabulary sheets and charts for you to keep track of and to help develop. But there's no way to learn every word there is. But what you can do is you can learn the base of words that we just build on to make parts and slightly change meaning. So we'll work on learning some of these roots, these combos, to help us. So if we look through and we find things, and also using other questions, and that'll be the last one, use other questions to help you on later ones. Some of these words are very similar, right? Ecosystem and ecology. We got ecology down, which was the study of relationship between organisms and environment. So if ecology is the study of how living things and their environment interact, what do you think ecosystem is? So what's a system? I'm sure we've all heard that word before, right? Oh, he has a system for how he gets things done, or you got to work in the system. A way or a process, right? So if ecology is studying how organisms and the environment and their relationship, then the ecosystem would be looking at, instead of the study, but the system, the process, the method. So let's see. The area in which living things interact, maybe. That could be it. Are there any other ones that would match? So yeah, the ecosystem, instead of the study, would be the place, the system where they do it. Since ecology gave me one answer, and once I know what that word means, I can then use it to give myself other answers. There are very often, especially on larger style exams, moments where they repeat. For our number, we're not going in order because we're going through, one of the basic thing is just find the words you know and knock those out first. So you have less choices on the ones you're not sure of, and you make it a little bit easier. So the ones we have completed so far were biology, carnivore, cell, cloning, diversity, ecology, ecosystem, evolution, extinct gene, and photosynthesis. Using our pre-existing knowledge, because everyone, you've all come in already knowing stuff. You've used some of these words before. Use that knowledge. Take out those easy ones first to give yourself more time. And then as we go through and we learn our roots, bio means life or living, logi means to study. So biology would be study of living things. And helping ourselves do that. Eco means a dwelling place. And we know logi means to study. So study of dwelling places. Well, the one that best matches that, study of the relationship between organisms and their environment. If I don't know what eco as a root means, I know logi is study. Well, there's only 1, 2, 3 things here that use the study of. So that means at worst, I have a 1 in 3 shot, right? Use every tool you have, and I'm going to hand you those tools. So I think we have a little bit of a typo in the chat, but I think I see where you're going. Immune. You're going for that as 7. Immune system. And I would agree for that as we look through. Well, you try not to do this, but very often you will see, you try not to use a word in its own definition, but when it's a secondary word, sometimes they forget that. So I know I'm looking for some kind of a system. Well, they put system in the definition. And immune, is that a word anyone's ever heard? You're immune to something? Yeah, it doesn't affect you, right? Well, that happens because very often we talk about it for like childhood diseases, like chickenpox. Oh, he's immune to the chickenpox. He got it when he was younger. Well, that means you can't get anymore. Your body fought it off. It won't let them in. All right. Now, what I will do is for those of you who are in the Zoom link, let me open this up. I will be sending you a link to this document in our Google Drive on Canvas. Whoops. I want to send to everyone, not just one person. There we go. So on there is this worksheet, but also is the list of the vocabulary words and their definitions. For those of you in person, I will now give you the sheet with the vocabulary words and their definitions for you to go through and check them out. So this is a good way for you to kind of build up and look for, and this is what I want you to do in between classes, between now and Thursday. Look at those vocabularies and look at the definitions and see if you can find patterns or similarities between some of the words. If they have shared parts, see if you can find the matching parts of the definition so you can start building those links to help yourself.